Today on Morning Drive, with the first FedEx Cup playoff event in sight, what players are flying under the radar to survive and advance? And what top player in the world is being overlooked? Speaking of top players, we go to Texas to sit down with the Open champ Jordan Spieth. Hear him tell us why the PGA Championship is the toughest major to win and what he thinks about already being Hall of Fame worthy.
I said, this tournament, I believe, puts me in the Hall of Fame.
And want to learn how to hit the long ball like Maurice Allen? He'll take us through his workout that will help maximize your speed and distance. All that ahead on this Tuesday edition of Morning Drive, August 22nd, 2017. And welcome inside Studio AP. I'm David Hack alongside a PGA Tour winner and Robert Dameron. Good morning. Did you watch that eclipse yesterday?
They said if you looked right at it, you would have problems, but I didn't. I had no issue. No, I didn't look right at it. Of course not.
You stared at the sun, didn't you?
I did not stare at the sun. I stayed inside. I just watched it get a little darker.
Yeah,
inside. That's all.
I did the selfie thing with the phone, and it was all yellow, as Coldplay might say. Yeah, it was terrible. I feel like it wasn't a big deal for me. But the Golden Bear, Jack Nicklaus, he bossed it, of course. He had the correct sunglasses. I mean, look at him. Maybe he's looking at his major championship mark up there next to the sun.
That's what he's looking at. He's not looking at the eclipse. He's looking at the big 18 majors. Nobody ever getting up there.
So cool to see Jack involved. Of course, we appreciated him tracking that tease for us for the Open Championship as well. So yesterday was the eclipse. Happening now, yes, Patrick Reed set to defend at the Northern Trust. The FedEx Cup playoffs are about to begin. He won last year at Bethpage State Park. The black course, a one-shot victory over Sean O'Hare and Emiliano Grillo. That win got him into the Ryder Cup. This year, he's 9th in President's Cup standings, fresh off that runner-up finish at the PGA Championship. Let's take a closer look at the schedule. 125 players at Glen Oaks, 100 at TPC Boston. Then you have 70 players coming up at Conway Farms, and then 30 at East Lake Golf Club, of course, the site of the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup. How about the top 10 players? All of these players, Robert Dameron, have won at least one PGA Tour event this season. 3 of the 4 major champions, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, and Brooks Koepka. Sergio Garcia currently ranked 22nd in the standings. He won the Masters. These players all expected to do well, Robert Dameron. Let's take our pick, an under-the-radar player, someone you think who could put a scare to the people this week.
I think the guy that could put a scare into people this week was the guy that put a scare into him last week. Also, Martin Flores, not just because of the magical finish, I guess, last week with the hole-in-one, par, birdie, 3 pars in a row. He loses his card. He's not in the playoff. Yeah. Instead, he just, finished like a champ.
Momentum. I mean, he comes in with momentum.
It's not
this
just
is the best
momentum.
way you can do it.
It's not just the momentum. It's not just moments like this that made me think it. One, he's second in greens in regulation on tour for the season. So he's hitting a lot of greens, good iron player. But 4 straight top 20s leading into this week. Out of his last 24 rounds on tour, only 2 of them were over par. So he's going the right direction. He's been playing solidly. So it's not a huge surprise that he played as well as he did last week. Maybe the way he finished was a surprise.
It was unbelievable.
But won't be a surprise if he plays well this week.
We haven't seen that kind of finish before to go into the playoffs. How about Bubba Watson? 113th in the FedEx Cup standings. This is a 2-time Masters champ with 3 top 10s this season, none since June at the Memorial. What's going on with Bubba? We're not accustomed to seeing him deep into the hundreds in the FedEx Cup standings at this point in the season.
Well, his iron play's been off. His strokes gained approach to the green has not been what it normally is for Bubba, and he's had some change. Well, first off, his body's changed. He lost a lot of weight, which can sometimes be the precursor to a little slump. I mean, it takes a while to get back that. And then the change in equipment is something that, even if it's a good thing, if you go into the equipment change playing poorly, you can start to blame it. And even if it's unjustified, because he's not going to blame himself for playing bad, it's got to be something else.
You think he's going to find it, though? I mean, you're talking about one of the great savants.
No doubt. Absolutely. A savant. It's sort of a compliment, I guess.
Good words with friends words.
But
he is.
No, you're right. He's too good a player. And on the other hand, golf's too hard a sport not to have a lean year here again. He's a human being. It can happen. Don't worry about Bubba. He'll be just fine in the future.
Bubba will find. How about another top player under the radar? We send it down to Travis Fulton.
That's right, Damon. Alex Noren, the 11th ranked player in the world. That's a surprise to a lot of people when you tell them the 11th ranked player in the world. One of my favorite golf swings, in particular the rehearsal of his swing. It's an exaggeration of what he likes to feel. Look at this position here. We're going to play this through, and these are his practice swings where he's really trying to sit it down into the right hip, open up the left hip with a lot of left bend in the spine. Here's another good look at it from this angle here. So he's rehearsing that right hip really turning, kind of spinning itself down into the ground. You can see how my left hip, left knee can open up. But his spine, notice when he does that, stays in a little bit more left bend. So he's a little bit more on top of it. The opposite of that would be his hips maybe sliding too lateral. And then you can see my spine would want to go to the right. So it's an exaggeration. It's a move you see with a lot of these players, Justin Rose and others, that really sets the stage to hit it with rotation. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at his swing here, and I'm going to show you a couple things that leads to that as well. You can see a lot of foot flare here at address, a lot of forward shaft lean. Now, when you go to the top here with Alex, he is really a front loader to the top. What I mean by that is we take it halfway back. You're not going to see his belt buckle move very much. His lower body is going to stay very stable to the halfway position. And then from there, as we go to the top, he's going to be putting a lot of pressure down into the ball of the left foot. So let's go ahead and keep winding it up here. He's going to turn to the top of the swing. A lot of pressure. Watch this into the lead foot. That belt buckle, if anything, the pelvis is sliding maybe slightly towards the target. You'll see a lot of players load a little bit more into the right foot. Now, if you put pressure into the ball of the left foot going back, you front load it. What that's going to tell me here as we start down is that ground's going to push back. So he's very much a launcher. You're going to see that he's going to start pushing up this way, and you counter that with the rotation, right? The right hip kind of sitting it down here, and now the left hip, left knee really starting to open up and trying to keep this spine in more left bend and not right bend. You can see the spine maybe just drifting ever so gently to the right. So here we go into impact, pushing up off that left leg, trying to stay more in left bend as he rotates to the finish. So this is very much kind of a launch and spin type of action where you see him get into the lead foot, and then that rehearsal, he tries to sit it down, stay in left bend, and hit it with the rotation of the body, which is a good example of how so many professional golfers hit the golf ball. Back to you, Chantel.
Travis, thank you. Let's take a look where the PGA Tour heads to this week on the road, presented by Shipsticks. This week, the PGA Tour at Glen Oaks Club for the Northern Trust and the first event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. The course is in Old Westbury, New York. That's about 30 miles outside of New York City. It opened in 1971, and this is the first time it's going to be hosting the event. As we say good morning to you on this Tuesday, Matt Janella, you lived in New York for 20 years. The guys are exploring New York City, but you know where the best courses are because of your time there. What are some of the under-radar courses we should know about?
Well, some of my favorites, and not far from Glen Oaks, is we hear a lot about Bethpage Black, right? How about Bethpage Red? I consider that under the radar just because of how much notoriety Bethpage Black has got. This is also a Tillinghast design, goes back to 1935, runs right next door to Bethpage Black, out of New York State. Residents pay $86 during the week, $96 on weekends. If you're in state in New York, it's $43 on the week, $48 on the weekends. It's quite possibly even more popular amongst the locals than Bethpage Black. It's a lot more user friendly. Patriot Hills is another one I played a lot when I lived in the New York area, about 41 miles outside of the city. $90 during the week, $120 on the weekends. You're going to get great service, beautiful setting, especially in the fall. And that's also why I like the Garrison in Hudson Highlands, $55 during the week, $85 on the weekends. Overlooking the Hudson River and out to West Point. This is incredibly popular amongst me and my buddies. A little bit farther drive, but you save a little money because of that drive, and you get that setting. So yeah, fantastic.
That foliage, I'm going to be going to New York in the fall, and I think you might have convinced me to check out the Garrison.
The drive is worth it.
All right, looking forward to it. All right, Damon, let's get some notes, shall we?
Absolutely. Tim Roseward is here, our insider. He's definitely not under the radar. Good morning. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Did you get in the pathway of totality yesterday?
No, kind of was a big nothing for me yesterday with the selfie. Anyway, you did some great reporting. You got in touch with Nick Saban, the head coach of Alabama football. They're getting ready for a big game against Florida State. Of course, Justin Thomas played golf at Alabama, and they're buddies. How did this relationship even start?
Well, it was born in a bunker, actually, in a practice facility at the Jerry Page Center in the short game area at Alabama. And obviously, Justin just loves Bama. He loves Bama football. And you talked about this voicemail that he got from Coach Saban. So I reached out, and turns out they have quite a friendship and a relationship. They're even talking about playing Pebble Beach someday. It comes on signing day, so it doesn't quite work. But Coach had some chipping issues, some bunker issues, to say the least. And so he's taking lessons from Justin when he was playing at Alabama there. They hit a lot of balls together, never really played any golf, but a friendship was born.
Wow.
And I guess Justin isn't afraid of giving Coach the needle as it relates to some of his misgivings, his shortnesses, his inability to chip the golf ball, I guess. But, you know, over the course of time, a lot of respect, a lot of love between these two guys. And it was interesting that Coach would take the call and give me 6 minutes, 4 questions about a guy that he looks up to a lot.
Well, did you ask him about the PGA? What was his reaction?
Well, a guy who loves athletes who are closers, and that was sort of what Justin did. And he went into a long answer about what he saw in Justin. And said he showed the heart of a champion, Damon. I was really proud of that part of it. The handling of the circumstances, the handling of the situation, being comfortable even when that putt didn't drop right away at 10. He didn't show negative emotions. He was grinding, being positive, playing the next shot. Golf's a great metaphor for life, and people who can stay focused in a positive way on what happens next have a great chance of being successful. And Justin did that extraordinarily well down the stretch with a lot of pressure that he didn't let affect him, and that's why he probably won. Maybe we hire a coach to bring in here and do some golf analysis.
Great motivational speaker, Nick Saban. Now listen, Justin Thomas, if you follow him on social media, he tweets about Alabama football as much as anything, definitely more than he does golf. So let's say small college, parallel universe. If Justin Thomas played football, did you ask that question?
I did ask that question.
Saban that?
I did, yeah.
You know, real small college, D6.
I'm expecting maybe place kicker. He comes out with wide receiver or cornerback and talking about what a great athlete he is, and about
Saban
how
said that.
And that he hits his 8-iron longer than my driver. Well, here it is. I just think Justin would be a wide receiver or a corner, but he can hit his 8-iron as far as I can hit my driver. I don't want to make it sound like he doesn't have the power to play something else, but he certainly can hit a golf ball, and he's a great athlete. I'm not sure if he ever chose to play football, but if he did, he could have. Now, I know up in New York, if Justin's up this morning watching it, his chest is all puffed out. I want to get the clock on him and see what his 40-yard dash time is, but said something about what Coach Saban saw in this kid.
Yeah.
Both as a collegian when he won a national title and how much pride he took in that to bring that home to Alabama, but also now as a professional athlete and out in an arena that maybe he's not as familiar with as football, but sports is sports, and he sees some things in Justin that we do, having covered a lot of sports, that obviously have shined through at this point in his life and career.
Definitely a tough kid. I hope that Jupiter crew of Keegan and Justin and Ricky Fowler are laughing in their Cheerios as we put Justin Thomas in a football uniform.
Coach Sewell texted me back. I sent him the interview, the Alabama golf coach, and he said, Diva WR, question mark, with ha 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 all the way through it. So
great stuff.
You better have thick skin, I get, if you go to Tuscaloosa.
Absolutely.
You're going to get busted pretty good.
They bust you, but you also build champions as well. Much more with Tim Rosefort a little bit later. We send it back to Chantel.
All right, Damon, well, what's happening now? Ariya Jutanugarn defends the Canadian Pacific Women's Open. The 21-year-old already has a win this season. She's coming off of a week of rest. But there are 18 players in the field who teed it up in Iowa for the Solheim Cup. Notable names in the field include the 2017 victorious Team USA members Stacey Lewis, Brittany Lincecum, Michelle Wie, and Daniel Kang. And Damon, what else is happening?
I'll tell you what, Chantel, Bernard Langer defends. How many times have those 3 words been uttered over the last decade? I tell you what, he defends the Boeing Classic. He won it in a playoff last year over Woody Austin and Kevin Sutherland. It was his 4th win last year, Robert Dameron. He has 4 wins this year. Scott McCarron has 3 wins. You see Freddie Couples with 2. Of course, Scotty McCarron won the Dick's Sporting Goods last week. Now, these guys, they're 1 and 2, Langer and McCarron in Charles Schwab Cup standings. Is this good for the game to have a couple of dominant players? I like seeing it personally.
I do too.
You do.
Was Ali Frazier good for boxing?
It was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely it was. Yeah. These guys aren't going to trash talk quite as much as Ali Frazier. Maybe they should a little bit. But no, it's a good thing. It's a good sell, and it's a great thing to see for the Schwab Cup, the race at the end, neck and neck. These 2 guys going at it. And McCarron really is coming into his own more so. And, the young man of the 2, if you were, and not that Langer's aged a day since like his 23rd birthday, I don't think. But No, very good for the sport, great for them, and you know, two great guys and great golfers, obviously.
Langer turned 60 on Sunday. There's Scott McCarron from UCLA. To me, the story of the PGA Tour champions is Bernard Langer's chase for Hale Irwin's mark. He has 33 wins to Hale Irwin's 45, and Matt Janella was talking about it this morning in our meeting about just how iconic that number is, that 45 wins. It kind of sheds new light on Hale Irwin and new appreciation for him, and also an appreciation for Bernard Langer and what he says he's not trying to accomplish. Every time we ask him after a victory, you know, you're getting closer and closer to Hale. Now he's 12 behind. He's like, you know, I'm not chasing that. But he keeps getting closer and closer. We'll keep talking about it.
In my mind, that number, 45 wins on the PGA Tour champions, is equivalent to the 18 majors on the PGA Tour.
Interesting.
Nicklaus's thing. I think that is the number. Not the fact that he's won more majors than anyone. That Irwin number.
Yeah.
And he's not just chasing he and McCarron for the Schwab Cup. It is Langer against history, too.
Yeah.
So that's another great story going on.
Hale Irwin, 45. Michael Jordan briefly wore jersey number 45 as well, as he sent it back to Chantel.
Damon, thank you. Morning Drive rolling on for 2 hours, and here's what's on the tee sheet. World Long Drive Championship in Thackerville, Oklahoma is in just a few weeks, and you know this guy, Maurice Allen. He's won 2 World Long Drive events and celebrations everybody remembers. He joins us in studio to tell us how he's preparing to get that championship belt. And Jordan Spieth, what does he think about where he stands in golf history? His one-on-one sit-down with Gary Williams is coming up. Plus, golf in Michigan gets a big boost from the man who designed Erin Hills. Matt Janella talks about the much-anticipated public course. Well, plenty of Morning Drive is coming up. It's a Tuesday. We've got you covered. An hour left to go. Get your coffee, breakfast, everything. Keep it right here on Morning Drive, Studio AP.
That eclipse was a big nothing. I'm just saying, it was a big nothing.
I'm with you.
Don't you think? That eclipse?
Boring.
A big nothing.